right. It is time for TJRS, the John Riggins Show, Wednesday, May 4th. May the 4th be with you. I'm not going to go down there. We got Cinco de Mayo happening. We got the Kentucky Derby. We got Mother's Day. We got a lot going on in the month of May. Here's a Riggo.
Yes, we do, Todd. Thank you very much. Where do we start today, Todd? I got a couple things. First thing, though, it's just kind of a thought that occurred to me when I was coming down here because I went into the, the kitchen and got myself a bottle of water. And I'm thinking to myself, when I grew up, there was no such thing. It would be the most stupidest thing in the world.
Paying for water.
To go to a store and buy water.
Well, it didn't exist.
I mean, I seriously don't get it. I mean, A, the plastic that is contaminating the world. Can't you just go? I mean, I'm sitting here, actually kind of running against the grain of what I'm talking about. But at the same time, I don't get. I mean, to me, and it kind of gets down to, and they should be the leader in this, marketing, right? I mean, what else could it be? To convince us. I mean, and then, then they used to have, always about coaches. And, of course, it's factual, this part. But how many Bear Bryants were there that, water, you need water? That's weakness. You want water, get water and get off the field. You know what I'm saying? You remember in the old days, the coaches?
We couldn't have it. Water was for pussies.
Exactly.
Coach, my organs are burning up from the inside. Yeah. Suck it up. And here's a salt tablet.
Which I don't know, maybe makes it worse. I have no idea.
It's kind of dry.
You got to take salt tablets the night before because you can't do them any good.
You don't cramp, right? You don't cramp.
Exactly. You got to keep it on a regular basis.
So I need to hear that from the world-class athlete. So that was, that was it, right?
Yeah.
Water was for chumps.
Oh.
You were
clearly.
soft.
I remember, in fact, it was one of the first coaches I had, actually here, that was, I will never forget this. We were in Carlisle, and I was this close to just walking off the field and going in, because there was a a drinking fountain just inside the locker room door once you came off the field. And it was like one of those Taylor drinking fountains. It wasn't, it was like the water was just like
Nirvana.
Just like it was coming down from the Rocky Mountains.
I know the one you were like this and had like the silver in it.
It was ice cold water.
It wasn't the old shitty ones that they had the white porcelain. You had to stick your head in the
and
jet.
It was room temperature.
Yeah. And you're like, Pah!
Now this thing was refrigerated, and it was. They had it down to where it was like 33 degrees. One more degree, and you'd had ice coming out of it. But, so I'm out there, and I'm thinking to myself, well, okay, another 5 more. I'm going to give it 5 minutes, and then this guy is going in and getting the drink. I don't give a goddamn about anything else out here. Fortunately, we didn't get to the 5 minutes because I was going to say, screw this. This isn't right. But I always made it a point, too. I was like, you ever been, you probably haven't been, around cattle when they see you with a feed bucket? You never fed cattle. Well, when they do, there's some of them that know ahead of time. They hear it, and they just like, they're the first in line.
You knew, buddy.
Exactly. And when you started to sense that the coach was just about ready to blow the whistle and practice was over with, I was already in my starting blocks.
I've never seen Riggo move that fast.
Exactly. In fact, and when he said, all right, that's it, it seemed to me like I was always the first one to get to that water fountain. And of course, I drank out all the cold water.
Right now it's got to redo its thing.
Exactly. The next guy, he's getting room temperature.
Sorry, Russ.
I feel badly about that. Not that badly. Okay. Now, let's pick up where I left off.
Bottled water as a phenomenon.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's just that I don't get it, although I don't buy it at home. Do you keep it at home?
Oh, no.
I've also got an RO system that was installed by O'Connor Plumbing, by the way.
Yes,
and
really
you know
nice.
what? If you don't have an RO system, then, get whoever you want to install it, but I would recommend O'Connor Plumbing. But I'm going to tell you something.
What's an RO system?
Reverse osmosis.
Oh, the old reverse osmosis trick.
Yeah, reverse osmosis. And let me tell you something. It gets rid of all the crud in the water. Once again, you would think it was the water that was streaming down those little creeks and streams.
Straight from the Rocky Mountains.
Exactly. Or
maybe Potomac.
Or Eagle, Alaska. I don't know. It could be coming out from the Catskills in New York City.
I think it's the Potomac.
New York City has some of the best water in the world, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it comes down from the Catskills. But I don't want to get into that because I don't know all the facts, but those, what do you call it, the conduits? What do they call it?
The aqueducts?
Aqueducts, yeah. Those things are like 100, I don't know how old they are, but yeah, they still get water from up in that area.
It's supposed to be also part of the lore of why the bagels are the best in the world, because of the water in New York City.
Well, their water, I think, if they rank the waters around the various city, the top 10, New York City is in the top 10 year in, year out, if not the number one. I think that's right. At least used to be.
You learn stuff here on TJRS.
Not much.
Some meaningless factoids.
Yes,
Maybe bar bets. You can use them in a bar bet.
Is the key word.
And you'll want to check our facts.
That's the other point. Do not go into a bar and,
Riggo said,
and say, if I say something and you put a wager on it, do not do. This is a disclaimer. If you do not come back for me if you suffer any losses. I'm not that guy.
Check with Todd.
Check with somebody else besides me. Go look it up. If you go, everything I say, you ought to go,
okay.
I don't know about that.
I don't know. Exactly. I got to wiki that.
I better look this up and make sure. Something I was going to, and then the other thing I wanted to roll into was what we talked about last week a little bit, was my door.
Yes, your door got a lot of attention that you were tackling another home project, and the lead was, will it be Majestic or Misery?
I think I'm going to have to go with the latter. Oh, Todd, this is like...
You're not still buffing, are you?
Oh, yeah.
How much door's left? You should probably start, it's about this wide, now you're down wide.
Well, the door... It was 2 inches thick when I started.
Doesn't weigh nearly as much.
Well, it's like a 3/4 inch sheet of plywood now. No, the problem is, and I'll tell you, if anybody that does this, first of all, I had a guy there this morning, and he actually, to me, looked like he was an experienced guy because he was telling me what to do. But he didn't think it was too bad, but I could see... The door is so big. I think I told you last week. It's 9.5 by 5 feet, right? You know how big the door is, but I don't know if everybody else does. And so it's so big, and the lighting is so poor because it's kind of it's got kind of a southern or a northern exposure where you don't get any sun.
It's kind of tucked away. It's kind of recessed.
Exactly, it is. It's back underneath an overhang, and then on top of it, when the sun. There's no, in the morning, I guess, you can't, the morning, the sun hits it directly. Well, you can't varnish in direct sun. The varnish will do weird things on you. So basically, once the sun gets past you, I need more light in there, and that's my problem. But I looked today. Last night I did a coat on it, and it was a clear, what do you call it, bright varnish. When I say clear, not a clear coat, but, as opposed to a matte or a semi-gloss, it was a high gloss finish. I mean, actually, if you didn't know better, it looked like it was a USS Intrepid or something like that. I mean, seriously, this varnish, and Lisa Marie loves it. What I had on last week was a matte finish, and she was like...
How many coats have you applied so far of what?
This is like number 7 last night. Number 7. It's getting to be the point where... And the other thing, I don't see that well. Plus, I'm in bad light. Plus, I've got all these little crooks and crannies in my neck and my lower back and my knee. It's like, Todd, it's almost, I ought to have a camera on me because, just to watch and go, because it's almost like it's a demonstration of futility. I can't, it's a dog trying to catch its tail. And I saw it today when I go out there, and I thought, last night when I got done, I went, all right, and I know more about varnishing. I forgot more about varnishing than I knew. My point being is, every 10 minutes I'm online reading something about how to varnish a door.
It's like, you better be varnishing quick.
Yeah, well,
but it's back to 9 feet.
That's
how
true.
fast can one man go?
You can't. It's exactly. And so I'm now trying to figure out. I'm looking it up online, going, how do you get rid of brush marks? And then I'm looking something. I told Lisa Marie last night. Well, I think there might be a couple of brush marks in there. Other than that, it looks pretty good. And she said, well, yeah, I see. And I said, well, yeah, but it's drying. It still hasn't dried. Once it dries, it'll be completely different. So last night before I went to bed, in the kind of not so much light, I looked and went, all right, it's kind of shaping up pretty good. I said, there might be, but maybe not. That might dry out of it. So I come down this morning, open it up, got the light coming in, and I look and I go, all right, oh. And then today when I'm there with the fella that knows about it, I go over, and there's a patch that big. I didn't even put any varnish on. Jesus. I mean, it's going to drive me to drink real hard, like in the old days.
How much is a new door?
Well, it gets down to this. How much is it to have a professional come in and do it? But I got to tell you the truth. I'm almost tempted to get a professional, but I don't want to pay this guy probably close to $700, $600-700 to do this, and find out he ain't a whole lot better than me. And where I'm going to be going, hey, fella, come here. You see that?
But you got accountability there.
See that? You see that little spot up there? You're going to have to the whole door. Let's go. I mean, I don't know where I am on it. I mean, I don't know if do I just need to kind of buff that and put a little light coat on it and it'll all kind of blend in together? Or do I got to go back to the drawing board and start
back to YouTube?
I don't know. I don't know, Todd. All I know is I'm getting old real quick. I snapped at my wife last night. Well, I didn't snap. Well, yeah, she might think I snapped. I didn't say. There was what do you call it? We had the detergent here, a certain kind of little packets that you throw in the washing machine. And then we had liquid right here. Now, I'm used to LM when she says jump, I'm how high? And do you want me to hold it up here for a while?
You're pretty good.
Yeah, so anyway, they're sitting this far apart, right? She goes, by the way, she says, there was some other detergent that was supposed to come in, and have you seen it? And I went, because she placed this stuff over here. I said, it's right here. It's right. It's this far from.
Did you have that kind of tone and tenor?
Yes, bad move, dude. I should have said, oh, honey, you must have missed it. It's right here. But then again, she could probably go, he's being sarcastic. You know, which way do you go? It's LM. I mean, she knows how to go to the whip. Anyway, we got it all worked out. So we're all good. Okay.
And then to the door, and then back to the door. So you got a lot going on there.
I do have a lot going on. I got that door to look forward to. Oh, I've got kind of a reprieve today. It's like 85, 90% humidity. You ain't supposed to be doing varnish.
Oh, yeah. The weather's supposed to be a little janky here.
It's going to be for the next 4 or 5 days.
Yeah,
but the problem is, see, I've got the whole front entrance is all cordoned off. I got a thin sheet of plastic drop cloth that I masked, taped all around. You can't get in my front entrance. So, you know, it's like more going. And then in the hallway, I've got the random orbital sander with the vacuum, and I got every. It ain't good, Todd. It ain't good. And LM's patience is starting to get a little thin.
It's been going on for a little while.
I got some work cut out for me.
A little while.
All right, what do you got?
Well, something else that we kind of didn't come to closure on last week, and we got we love hearing from the fans on Facebook and YouTube. We appreciate the love and the support. Keep the comments coming. Keep liking and subscribing here to TJRS.
And we take donations too.
And
well, I mean, we would.
Well, sure, why not?
We haven't yet.
But hey.
We'll do what we got to do.
So
we will work for food too. No, I ain't doing it.
The notion of the draft, and we did not get a chance to dive into this, and you signed off on the show. It's something that, for as long as I've known you, always had this opinion that the NFL draft is illegal. It's anti-American. And one Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk, and Mike's one of the big pundits out there, and surprisingly, he feels the exact same way prior to the draft. And I did not realize this in doing some research on Mike that he was a former labor lawyer.
Yeah, that's what you told me. I didn't know that.
And so his opinion, I mean, was exactly what you have been espousing. And so we had a couple of the fans weigh in and say, well, we'd really like to hear why Riggo thinks the draft is illegal.
Well, in my opinion, it gets down to the individual, but then again, you're talking about corporate rights versus individual rights. I always go with the individual rights. You know, corporations are completely impersonal entities run by people who hide behind the corporate veil. But from my perspective, if I'm coming out of college and I want to go play football for the LA Rams, and yet I'm drafted by the Cleveland Browns, I have no, and back years ago, I mean, now there's at least free agency. Back when there was no free agency, it was insane that you were basically, you were indentured to wherever you ended up going, unless you wasn't any good and they'd cut you, then you became a free agent. But the point here is, how can you take that, what I would say, an inalienable right to allow somebody to work where they want to work? And allow them that freedom that everybody else has in any other line of business. If you want to become a doctor, if you want to become you want to be a farmer, you can go anywhere in the country and practice your trade. This is different. You got to go where they tell you to go. And military, I get that, but this ain't the military. This is for profit, and nobody's defending anybody's turf here. And, the old argument was, well, we have to do this to spread the talent, whatever the argument was, which really falls thin, because I think that's a bunch of bullshit right out of the blocks, because it is what it is. I mean, when I say that, there's nothing you can point to that says now, after all this study, right, you might say, that all the draft is a convenient way.
Well, you were drafted 51 years ago? Mm-hmm. 51 years ago, and basically the same thing, except the notion of free agency in its forms exists now. But basically the same rules and the same draft, the same application is the same.
Yeah, nothing's changed. And what I'm saying is, after all these years, you have to understand that there's no reason to believe for a second that the draft is beneficial to the game itself and helps teams because of the downtrodden. When you finish last in the standings in the league, you get to have the first draft pick the next year. There's no proof, none whatsoever. There's no empirical evidence that you can point to that says, no, it's really working. And then it gets down to the whole deal where it's, in my mind, Pete Rozelle was always about, what did he always say? He wanted parity, didn't he?
Yeah,
Pete was always
that was it.
Parity.
That was it.
Well, can you
on
imagine?
Any given Sunday.
Yeah, but can you imagine, I guess, and then there's the nuance of parity, where it's, well, we're not quite, everybody finished 8-8 except for them. They finished 9-7. Then you don't have quality. So to me, it's like you always got to have David, you got to have Goliath. That's what creates drama. So, don't give me the bullshit that, oh, this is good for the for the game and all that. It's horseshit, in my opinion. And I resent it because the athletes themselves, now it's getting to be a little bit different now than when I came up. And before me, I mean, you go back 10, 20 years before I think it hadn't changed that much. But, my argument is that it's un-American, because you're taking away a right of an individual, of a citizen, to practice what they do where they want to do it, for them to go ahead and be able to do that.
Okay, I'll play devil's advocate and see your reaction relative to, okay, so let's face it, the professional sports leagues are basically cartels, and they have their own exemptions and their own way of doing business. So if you want to go into this line of work, here are the rules. Here's how we do it. You obviously have the right not to, but then you can't play professional football. Basically, it's
right.
So they could
become a plumber or a doctor.
So
if you need a plumber, call O'Connor. Just thought I'd slip
1-833 Riggo 44.
There you go. Thank you, Jeff.
And so as this progressed throughout time, and it all about leverage, right? And where players had virtually none,
correct,
and now they have a little bit more. And you realize John Elway back in the day, right, where he did not want to go. Was it Baltimore?
Baltimore.
Yeah,
exactly.
And he said, "Don't do it," because he was going to fall back on baseball or whatever. Eli Manning.
Same thing. San Diego, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Ain't going to happen.
And so these happened very infrequently, because part of it is also, you realize, with the way that the rookie salary cap is and the ability to control salaries, because wouldn't a more fair way to a player have an auction? Have an auction.
That's exactly
all the teams.
And wouldn't that be more entertaining than watching Roger Goodell go and the Miami Dolphins with their
the
first
7th pick have selected? Right. Because now you can really go and get what you want I mean, that would be fascinating because as they're finding out through the draft guarantees nothing.
The auction is actually the democratic way to do it because now you find out who's in and who's out, and everybody can bid on the same player.
Right.
There's, who was it that was getting ready to take somebody the other day, and then they, somebody that right before them, they grabbed the person, they didn't get him. But now if there's an auction, they could have maybe said, well, we're going to up the ante. I mean, that's clearly. But once again, why? Because the owners are going to say, well, we're not going to pay that. We're going to work against each other. That's anti-American. We're a cartel. We can do what we want.
And there goes your collusion, your cartel, salary restraints. It's not. It's.
Here's what you have to do, and unfortunately, this is the way. But you either got. You can't look at professional sports as truth and beauty as much as you want to. The only thing about professional sports, or any sports for that matter, is the moment the ball is in play, 99% of the athletes are out there that are giving it whatever they have to make a play, to do whatever. That's the whole crux of sports. That's what the owners have captured, the hearts of young men and women who actually give their all to try to be successful. That's the crux of sports. But now, when you start to pull back from that moment, that live moment on the field, when the ball is in play, and you pull back further and the camera goes back, then all of a sudden you start to see all the stuff going on behind the scenes. And now you see all the machinations that exist, and you actually have to come away, if you're what I would say an objective person, with the fact, well, this is the entertainment. This is entertainment. I wanted truth and beauty, but if I'm honest with myself, I know I'm just watching entertainment. And that kind of bleeds into, which once again, this is what I was going to bring in today, Todd, is this whole deal with the Brian Flores lawsuit about tanking games. Okay, guys, where do you go with this?
Well, that's Hugh Jackson. That was Hugh Jackson in Cleveland. But Flores, with the collusion amongst the owners, that he wasn't legitimately interviewed for jobs.
But also there's a sidekick to that.
And that Ross was tanking games. You are correct.
Right, and that's where I wanted to take this, was that now, where are we now? On the one hand, it's all about the shield and the integrity of the shield, right? But it doesn't exist. There is the shield. There is no integrity. It's an entertainment industry, just like MGM, United, Warner Brothers,
Paramount,
whatever.
pick one.
And you gotta let everything go. They might as well have, what is this about the league? It's all about creating the illusion, and that's what all drama is about. That's what all good acting is about. But the difference here is, and I go back to it, is that moment, those precious seconds when something is happening on the field and the ball is in play or on the court or wherever it may be. That part is real, and that's the part people tune into and buy into, and I applaud that. But you got to know, though, in the back of your mind, you're being hoodwinked, because there's a bunch of people back there. Yeah, okay, deal the cards. Let's go one more time.
Follow the money.
Exactly.
And professional sports, and the NFL in particular, it is the largest entertainment that is guaranteed success now, which is why the escalation and the volume of money.
And now with the gambling,
you're going up to $20 billion a year entity. It's projected to be 28 to 30 billion, like in the next 5 years.
10 years ago, it was like, what, $12 billion?
Yeah, it was. The advent of fantasy sports.
They're going to be up there with Costco before long.
Gambling in Bushwood.
Taboo.
Gambling, of course.
Taboo.
Now we're all in.
What is Pete doing? Like a rotisserie.
Rotisserie in the ground.
Man,
rotisserie in the ground.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
it's just, is it any different, though, as you go out throughout history? Because it is. It's about, making money based on a volume of people, and people are there to be entertained, right? From the movies to whatever a newspaper may be, or now what's on TV, what did they do back in the Roman times, right? The gladiators and the games, right? Are you not entertained?
What is it? The ripping and the tearing back in those days. What I wanted to add to this, too, before I forget it, is that when you come down to where, like with the deal down in Miami, and I think Hugh Jackson as well, where basically they had a 4-year plan in Cleveland. It was, and the first 2 years winning was like the last thing on the. Don't worry about that. We got a bigger plan. Now, once again, you get into this whole deal with the NFL and protecting the shield, where, well, think about it. I've always thought this same thing, and you hear people talk about it at the end of every season, is where it's like, well, if they win, they're dropping the draft, and they got no shot. They were terrible this year. They don't want to win. Why would you want to win? So, how do you look at that when you protect the shield? You're playing for your fans, supposedly, and the fans know at that point, well, this team is moribund. It ain't going nowhere. So let's play for next year, the year. So where's the timeline of what your projections are? Any business, they go, well, we're not going to be profitable this year. We've got...
We're playing for the long game.
You're the one that knows business models. I don't. But, exactly. You know how this works. I'm not a business guy. But I'm thinking that, so Cleveland at that point in time, they were looking at it like a business from the standpoint of, well, we're not going to have success the first couple of years, but if we start doing this and that, we don't win all these games. In other words, so we can keep getting better draft picks.
You got a master plan.
Exactly.
An eye on the bigger prize, but it's not going to happen overnight.
Exactly, and so now you've got the league, which is everybody's out there. It's it's blood and guts every second, every hour of the day. When you're the league, oh no, everybody's trying all the time. There aren't any refs on the take. It's like we're all above board. It's all it's like. And then, you got all kinds of crap that goes on, and, where you see it and there's nothing done, like not to harp on this, but just as an example, because I can't think of another one, but there's plenty of them, is with the Washington football team where, that they had the investigation and there's no written report and nothing like, hey, lift that rug up, will you? Okay. Nothing to see here, folks. Let's keep it moving.
Keep it moving, sports fans.
Yeah. So.
Well, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, John, because, yes, organizationally, and between teams and how they're run, ownership and how it trickles down, but as an individual athlete, and given that the NFL, it's not the NBA, it's not Major League Baseball, it's not hockey with the volume of games. Let's face it, if it's 16, 20 games, including preseason, whatever, you got to do your job, as you've always said.
Yeah, exactly. It's individual.
And people are like, oh, they're tanking. Where I'm like, but how does that trickle down to the guys that are on the field and the competitive spark? And you're on the field, and you can get, you're there to make your money.
Correct.
And you want to get your stats, and you want to do your job. And so I've always had a tough time saying, oh, they're tanking. I'm like, a professional athlete, unless you're very late in your career or it's late in the season and you're milking it, and it's a different story versus earlier in the season, halfway through, and you want to make your mark. You got your own pride, and you want to make your money and get paid.
You might have a great point, but I can honestly say this, that I don't ever feel like I went on a football field and tanked, because I never felt like I necessarily worked. I always felt like I worked for McDonald's, meaning I worked for the NFL. I never saw that I was a New York Jet or I was a Washington Redskin in that sense, because I knew my value. In other words, it was an occupation. Mm-hmm. And when I went on the field, a couple of things. I would have tanked had I not thought I would have got my ass knocked off, because that's the whole deal is. And plus, the other part of that is your own personal integrity.
Right.
That, this is my brand, and I'm not, and it's true. I remember, you see an interception a lot of times late in the season. You'll see a lot of guys going, oh, yeah, well, he might score a touchdown because I ain't going to try and tackle him. God damn it, I'd go try to tackle the guy. That's like, hey, it's on my watch. I'm on the field. This is what I'm going to do. But that's more to do with my personal brand and your longevity in the game. You got two things: one, your own brand, and two, if you're going to half-ass it, then it may not work out so well for you, and your career may be over with prematurely for a couple of reasons. One, people are going to watch you and go, "Hey, look at that jerk off out there. He's going half speed. Yeah, we're getting our asses beat, but I don't know if we can count on him in a pinch." So that's the way it worked for me. And I think, and like I said, I never really considered, somewhere along the way I had this what do you call it? I don't know if it was a foreboding. I don't know if it was necessarily a foreboding, but an epiphany that when it's all, and back then it was true. It was just just what you said. It was not necessarily just a it was a cabal. The NFL was a cabal besides the cartel. And you really ultimately, if you were honest with yourself and you read your contract, the standard player contract, you realized, well, I don't work for the New York Jets, really. I work for the NFL that's at 280 Madison Avenue. Now, I think they've changed digs. They've gone someplace else. But the truth of the matter is that's what the situation was. Because I'm working for the New York Jets today, but the New York Jets may decide, hey.
Your collective bargaining agreement applies to any team you play for.
Right. And so now the Jets decide, we can actually get a first-round draft pick if we trade him to the Oakland Raiders. So today it's like anything else. How do you have any loyalty, real loyalty, to an what do you want to call it? To your, what do you call it?
An organization?
To an organization that can flip you off in any second of the day. You're chum if they want to make you chum. In other words, it's like they have complete control. We can hire you, we can fire you, and we can trade you. So don't get too cozy here, okay?
You were chattel.
And yet, the great Coach Joe, hey, we're family. We're family, okay? We're all family. I'm going, Joe.
Love you.
I love you, but you missed a block last week, and I don't love you that much. So you're not family anymore.
And Coach Buke said Coach Buke dropped a little dime.
I'm thinking Bukes. Joe at least was humane. Bukes, he may cost you a finger or a toe, and then the next time it'll be the whole hand.
Yeah.
No, I'm just teasing. I loved them both. Well, Joe, he's no Bugle is not with us anymore, but I love both of them. So,
and Coach Gibbs going to be in town next week.
He is. What's he doing? Coming to see me? I don't think.
Actually, wants to see you. Youth for Tomorrow, big wing ding, and he is being inducted into, I believe, their first ever Hall of Fame. It's a big event.
Youth of Tomorrow's Hall of Fame.
Yes,
let me ask you something. Didn't he start it? It's called insider trading.
He's first ballot.
He's the only ballot.
Unanimous.
Wait a second. That'd be pretty. You started, and then what? Are you the one?
Well, shouldn't he be the first? Shouldn't the founder be the guy? If you're going to start it,
yes, he should.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is anybody else just it's a one-off?
I believe this is the initial rollout of what this is about and all the great work that they've done out there.
What about all the players that he had though that were good community guys? Were there any honorable mentions?
Listen, I think your name just keep popping up, right behind him.
We know that's not true.
Right behind him.
Falsehood, Todd.
So this segs perfectly into it, John, because I think this all speaks to money and the value of sports in today's modern day athlete, because and today's modern day athlete now realizes that these networks, these franchises, these corporations, from a Nike to Adidas to pick, everybody's reaping. This is as big business as there is on the planet. Entertainment. And it's all about the entertainment.
And it's all based around, it's molecular if you think about it.
Whoa.
Yes, think about that. Because of all, like I said, the close-up, the tight shot, is the esprit de corps, that very moment when the atom is split and the bomb, the atomic or the fission or fusion begins. That's what starts the whole thing. Without that, you have professional wrestling. And I'm not taking anything away from professional wrestling, because between what you consider, NFL, Major League Baseball, hockey, basketball, all this stuff, there is a fine, fine line between WWE and these other sports. And if you notice, a lot of them have copied WWE in their marketing plan and everything that they do. So that's where it gets weird. And that's that one little that little infinitely small, tiny thing is what comes out of here is what creates these other leagues. And it's the energy that's been harnessed by the whole industry that is the sports industry, and everybody's riding off of it, and it's all created by individuals.
No question about it.
And I, for one, everybody, starting with high school kids almost now. Well, it did start with high school kids. I'm saying the weird thing about this, though, is that there's got to be some chum. You got to have some grist. Otherwise, you can't have your stars. So even that's bullshit, because you've got some guys. And I'll be honest with you. When I first came here, I was a blocking back. I think I was better than that, but I was a blocking back. That's what I got paid. Hey, this is what I had to do. What I had to do. Well, that sure as hell wasn't doing anything for my career. I was like, okay. But so my point is everybody here, you got to have the NCAA, all the money they rake in. They've got to have the guys who will have Jake legs down the road that gave it their all for their college team, for the alma mater. But you know what? You ain't going to the NFL. You ain't getting any of that sweet money. I'm sorry. You're going to be a ditch digger. You weren't smart enough either, so get out of here. You tried for med school. I'm sorry. Best you're going to be is a ditch digger. As Jack Kent Cooke would say, you tried to educate yourself beyond your intelligence. And I didn't do a very good imitation.
It wasn't bad.
Huh?
It wasn't bad.
Wow, my dear boy.
My dear boy.
He's educated beyond his intelligence. He told that to my attorney one time.
Well, with the money flowing the way that it is, and now what is happening in 90% of name, image, and likeness in college sports, mainly for football and basketball. The genie's out of the bottle, and that's why you're seeing a bunch, and especially on the basketball side, a bunch of the top coaches that have been around forever. They said, we're out. They saw this shifting landscape.
When you say top coaches, at what level? College?
College. This is all college. Name, image, and likeness is the ability now to pay the college athletes to use their name, image, and likeness, so they can sign autographs. And John, we're not talking peanuts. We're talking some guys are getting millions of dollars to do this. Now, this started
coming out of high school,
in college, college. Yeah, not forget high school. This is college athletes now.
Yeah, but once it's seen, let's just say there's the best. I'm sure there's somebody rated as the number one overall number one high school senior basketball player,
sure,
right?
Sure.
So when he comes out of high school, he's known enough that everybody's going to be after him. It'll just be a matter of seconds before Nike or somebody's coming after him to, hey, you want to endorse our shoes?
You're exactly right. So the NCAA is having a confab out in Scottsdale, Arizona. The NCAA is always about 20 years behind everything, if you will. So now college footballs, and these are the biggest donors and the boosters that have been there forever, right? As we learned that Dexter Manley had got quite a few gifts at Oklahoma State. John Riggins got books and tuition.
I got bupkis. But that's probably because I was too stupid to ask for it. It gets me all pissed off at my dad again, because he had the whole master plan. He knew everything. I'm like, Pops, you missed this one by a mile. But anyway.
So, John, they are orchestrating this business ventures called collectives, and they are distributing 5-, 6-, and 7-figure payments to athletes under the guise of endorsement opportunities and appearance fees.
Who is?
These boosters and the So there's a billionaire in Miami.
Mark Emmert must be just rolling over.
Well, Mark's retiring too. He announced his retirement, and he was John Ruiz Jr. out of Miami, and the U. The U is always doing it, and it was all the big programs are doing it.
Yeah, I think that when they know they're like, hey, you want to play for us, a little something here.
And so he has formed a collective, and this guy's a billionaire, and he's making no bones about it. And here's how bad it's gotten. So,
what do you mean, in other words, to get people to come to the University of Miami?
Yeah, he's formed a collective, and they're funding it with millions of dollars off of his businesses. And he says, hey, you're going to promote 2 of my websites. Here's $500,000. And that is happening. So last week, it came out that University of Miami basketball program made it to the Elite 8 this year under Jim Larinaga, former GMU.
Yeah.
So Larinaga's been down there, and so one of his players came out and was ticked off that he didn't like his NIL money that he was getting, and they were going to pay.
He needed a raise.
Yeah, they were going to pay. They were going to pay a transfer coming in, I think, from K-State, $800,000. And this guy's NIL agent came out and said, my guy is going into the transfer portal if we don't sweeten the deal. And they did. And they did. So these deals are happening. So now the NCAA is meeting, and this cracks me up. So this
so
is
what they're meeting to do what?
They're trying to rein this in. Right. They're trying to rein this in and realize when this was created over a year ago.
Genie, right?
Yeah. So Shane Lyons, he's the NCAA council chairman. He said it is becoming a burgeoning scandal if this guy's pay for play in college athletics. Here's his quote. This kills me. How are they having conversations with athletes? They're boosters. We've never let boosters be involved in the recruiting process. Where did it go off the tracks? The collectives are boosters. I'm like, okay, really?
How old is this?
Yeah, what are we doing? So these collectives, they say there's probably more than 100. And John, some of these collectives already have 10, 20, 30, 40, $50 million that they are now going to dole out for these athletes.
Well, you know what? See, this is what's interesting. Very interesting, if you ask me. Once again, you always say follow the money. Well, think about this. Ohio State, Alabama, was it Auburn, Clemson, Notre Dame,
Texas.
Well, what I'm saying here is, we'll use Alabama as an example. Now, guess what? It's going to get competitive again.
But the rich are going to get richer.
Yeah, but you know what? There's only going to be so many anyway. You know, you're not going to have Kansas ain't going to be anywhere in this. You know,
will in basketball?
But they will in basketball, yes. But football, forget about it.
If a Warren Buffett or somebody that's a Kansas guy, now this actually gives them an opportunity because if it's about the deep pockets.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I think we're saying the same thing.
Yes.
That, like I said, it's going to get more competitive because I'm thinking now. Once again, this is El Riggo, and sometimes my deductive powers need a little bit to be desired, leave a little bit to be desired. But if you're a kid and you, like you said, it's the University of Kansas, and all of a sudden you could be a game changer for that school, and they have Warren Buffett, but he's not. He's a big red guy. He's a big red guy.
Oklahoma?
No.
Big Red Nebraska. Oh, that's right.
Nebraska.
You would think I would, the sage of Omaha. You'd think I would have connected those dots.
Well, he used to live here in D.C. about years ago. Anyway, so then all of a sudden, because that same kid would be going to Alabama because he knows that all of a sudden he's with a brand that's going to get a lot of attention. If he plays well, he's going to get drafted high in the NFL, and so on and so forth. Got a chance to win a national championship, blah blah blah. Finally you have what you'd call the antidote or the anti-venom. That is what college sports was headed to, because everybody that was anybody would be signing with, like I said, Ohio State, all these same schools every year that are, somehow there's only 4, so there isn't any playoff system, not like that. So it's all, once again, it's about creating the illusion. But my point is that these schools, they have this, they got the pick of the litter, and then everybody else gets what's left.
Right.
And if you are that school, and Kansas is a great example of it, that every so often, somehow, some way, it just turns out that you have a great team. I played on one back in the 60s.
Mangino?
Mangino created one. Pepper Rogers was the team that I played on. Before that, I forget who the coach was, but Kansas went to an Orange Bowl in the late 40s. Then they went again in the late 60s. So, in other words, every 20 and you look around, there's, it does happen. I forget who was it the basketball team or football team? There was a surprise football team, wasn't there, this year? I don't watch college sports.
Yeah.
But I thought there was somebody who was like in the top 10. You're going, where did they come from?
Yeah, it was a smaller school out west.
So, in a way, and first, once again, we go back to the individual, because that's the part that everybody that I think gets overlooked and is taken for granted, is what that individual is doing to create that special moment that everybody is going to cherish, that has to be there, see it in person, and make that great shot or make that great play that it creates the entertainment. They're the people that are actually making it happen. And yet you got I don't want to call people vultures, but whatever, the people around them. And sometimes it can be a symbiotic relationship to where it's good for everybody. But a lot of times, sometimes it's not necessarily that situation. Certainly the NFL was like that for years. That they were, I don't want to say, what is it when you got somebody that is basically sticking their fangs in you and drawing the blood out of you?
A vampire?
Well, that's a vampire, but, there's a biological term for it where you have...
a leech?
A leech, that's a good word, but there's actually a technical word for it. But yeah, in other words, and it's harming the host in a way. In other words, they're not getting what they really deserve. So I see it as a good thing.
This is going to...
I see it as a great thing.
This is shatter the notion of amateur athletics. You can't, and we've always
Parasite was the word I was
Parasite, there you go. The notion that, and you were drafted 51 years ago, and we have said this numerous times. In essence, so don't write in and get on. In essence, the same scholarship John Riggins got, played college football in the 60s. In essence, it's the same scholarship that a person gets today. And it's a year-to-year arrangement.
But mine wasn't. Mine was for 4 years, if I'm not. That's what I was telling
They're year-to-year now.
That's what I thought. And somebody said, no, that's all for 4 years. I went, well, and I thought I heard it was year to year. It has to be renewed when
they do.
To me, that's like insane.
Yeah. So they're actually year-to-year contracts, and only if coach is super vindictive. So there's been a shift in trying to transfer some of this with the transfer portal, and where athletes don't have to sit out to the degree they used to have to because coaches were jumping ships and saying, oh gosh, I just made it to the Elite Eight and I was making $2 million, but they're going to pay me $4 million over there, and I still love you kids. We're all family, but I got to take care of my family over here.
Family.
And so you're seeing that shift of power here. So open doors. They are the largest name, image, likeness platform, and this gentleman has been out ahead of the curve in seeing this coming. So they manage 12 collectives that have raised over $50 million. Now, these collectives, again, are booster groups that they then funnel the money and say, hey, I got websites.
Now they're legal. Before they were illegal.
And they say that number is going to be over $100 million by the end of this year, or roughly $10 million per collective. And then they said it's probably going to be more than $500 million in player NIL funds amongst the Power 5 schools and the Powerful 5 conferences and the big schools that you just ripped off a bunch of. So change is coming. It's a different day. The amateur game.
Well, not so much that, but you say amateur. Once again, does it make any difference as long as whoever's down there doing what they do creates that same moment, that same frisson that everybody feels when you see something that actually moves you on an athletic field.
But here's the difference, and we know some of these folks, and we mock them privately, and we won't say their names today, who want to believe, and they're there for their education and for the Terrapins and our old alma mater, and we're all going to get around and sing. No, these guys, they realize the value they are creating. Their parents realize that the value that they bring, that asses in seats, these stadiums are packed because of them.
Right, and that's always been the case. But once again, it's a matter of I think people waking up to the realities of a changing world, if you will. Everything evolves, and it's taken way too long, and maybe it shouldn't have been like. But think about how corporations have a tendency to do things to make the most money. Colleges were no different, and now they're having to share. In other words, it's just, as the coaches, coaching, 50 years ago? I don't think coaches were making, $25,000, $30,000. But once again, once the money, then the coach got all the dough. The college kids, they some of them, and you needed those, like I say, you needed the grist. Somebody to be out there, the blocking.
It was the booster handshakes, right?
And that booster handshake, but you needed, the blocking dummies and all that stuff, but only a select few were getting monetized for it. And actually, unfortunately, that's going to be the same thing here. And that's where it gets weird, because does everybody share in this pool or just the stars?
Here's the problem.
That's the part that bothers me.
Yes.
Because that's total bullshit. Because they aren't stars unless they got enough people on the field to support them to what they do. They need to. It needs to be a little bit. I'm not talking about, I'm not a socialist here or a communist, but my point is, I think the people that everybody's out there trying to create that moment for the people in the stands. Everybody needs to share in the rewards of what they're doing.
And that's part of the problem is they basically left this up to the states, and then all the states, Florida, Texas, they all said, oh, well, we're in, but this is why it's the wild, wild west. Who gets it? Are there there are no basically no rules to guide them other than what it states that they can. They have to be for appearance fees, and they actually have to do some type of real work. Okay, well, that's lending my name, image, and likeness to a website. Boom, you're in. Think about this, John. If you're 18, 19 years old, you're being paid $500,000. The other guys playing next to you are getting $0 or $10,000.
Right.
I mean, think about that dynamic.
Well, and that's why I say it gets weird, because you can't. A lot of it depends. It's political. It can be political. It can be personal. You get a coach that doesn't like a player, but the player's got a load of talent. But nowadays,
and it's got a load of cash.
Thank God nowadays, though, that player can transfer and go someplace else where he'll be appreciated. But still, you've got all the little people, if you will. I mean, for lack of better. How many offensive linemen are really sharing in all this? They're the ones doing all the sweat equity, you might say, for the star quarterback to get, to be making all his dough.
The star running back.
And to go.
Oh, wait, that's like running backs. You guys were the
What'd you say, Willis?
Except the running backs. You guys were the magic men.
Exactly.
You guys.
Exactly.
You guys were the artistes that made it all happen. Those
course.
punk-ass quarterbacks just sitting back there.
Eating cake. That ain't the way it's supposed to be. But what I'm saying is so how does that work? There's got to be some equity here, is what I'm saying. I would think there would be. I would think anybody who's intelligent that would understand, it isn't the me first attitude. Of course, that's kind of hard to find nowadays.
Good luck. Good luck.
Right here.
I got mine.
Yeah, exactly.
I got mine.
You get yours. You get yours.
He goes, okay, you know what? I'm going to be shaving a few points then. How you like me now?
Well, if you're an offensive lineman, that might not be. Whoops! Oh man!
Why did that guy bet on over 7 sacks?
TJ just got creamed, and he will not be in the game. I think we better leave it right there, Todd. Yeah. Riggo.